August 6, 1945. Little boy, an atomic bomb was loaded onto Enola Gay, a heavy bomber aircraft. The initial blast killed 100,000 people, and 100,000 more died from radiation poisoning. The world will never forget those who lost their lives in this atrocious act of desperation, but perhaps their families can take solace in the advancements in science, medicine, and energy that arose from the tragedy. As with all things, it started with an idea. Originally, it was thought that we cannot control atomic energy to an extent that it would be of any value commercially, and we are not likely to ever be able to do so. Leo Szilard theorized about how we might be able to tap into the frozen energy, as Einstein called it, that lies within atoms. He thought that if a neutron were fired into the nucleus of the atom, energy from the nuclear force that holds the nucleus of the atom together would be released, as well as more neutrons. It had to be a neutron because the positive charge of a proton and the negative charge of an electron would cause the atom to repel it away, instead of the particle breaking into the nucleus. Szilard was able to prove his theory to be correct, but reasoned that only if this reaction could be continuous would it be useful. A team working independently from Szilard, Otto Hahn and Fritz Strassmann in Berlin, and Enrico Fermi in Rome, conducted the experiment with uranium and found that the product was a variety of radioactive substances, some of which could not be immediately identified. What was happening, as identified by Lise Meitner and Otto Frisch, was the splitting of the nucleus of uranium into two parts, making different elements. Frisch called it fission. At this point in time, the Germans were making huge gains in World War II. They had taken over France, and the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7th pushed the United States to enter the war, first declaring war on Japan, to which Germany and Italy responded by declaring war on the United States, and the United States returned the favor. It became clear quickly that the development of the atomic bomb would be an important factor in the outcome of the war, and with that, the pressure was on. Who could make an atomic bomb first? In order to make an atomic bomb, a few things needed to happen first. Researchers needed to find out whether to use fast neutrons or slow neutrons for the fission of U-235, whether or not enough U-235 could be separated from natural uranium to make a bomb, and how much would be needed. This information would be used to create the first self-sustaining fission chain reaction. A report by a British committee found that it would be possible to make a bomb in as little as 3 years. And though it was predicted that the war would end before an atomic bomb could be created, the Maud report foresaw the significance of atomic weapons in the post-war future.
Fermi was the scientist to establish the volume of uranium and other materials needed to sustain a low-neutron chain reaction, and called it a pile. The construction of the first pile began in an unused and unheated double squash cone breath stock field of the University of Chicago campus. It was here, 17 days later, the final phase of the experiment would be conducted successfully. The pile ran for 4.5 minutes before Fermi stopped it. Now they could take what they learned about uranium's radioactivity and use it to finally create a bomb. Because the uranium matter is so radioactive, the bomb could have to house the two atoms in separate substical masses. A conventional explode launches one of the uranium's atoms towards the other, causing the chain reaction to begin. The longer the chain reaction lasts, the bigger the explosion will be. The first atomic bomb to ever have been made was called Fat Man and was detonated in New Mexico on Monday, July 16, 1945. The bomb worked perfectly and marked Trinity, the code name for the test, successful. So the American military celebrated as it was beginning to become clear that the war might be coming to the end, but with effects that nobody would be able to see until it was too late. Little Boy was the first atomic bomb to be used in the war, the second to ever be built, and the target was Hiroshima. The bombing of Hiroshima was an influential mark in history, having been one of the biggest bombings to have taken place. 2:45 a.m. The Enola Gay takes of 7:30 a.m. Captain Dick Parsons arms the bomb 8:60 a.m. A little boy detonates World War II. Becomes the first ever nuclear war, and Japan becomes the field study for the effects of radiation. So many people lost their lives that day, but they did not lose their lives without a reason. We thank those who lost their lives that day for giving us a better understanding of radiation and its effects, a better understanding in medicine itself, a better understanding of nuclear chemistry, and a new source of energy for the world. After the bombing, in addition to the tens of thousands of people who lost their lives in the initial blast of Little Boy, tens of thousands more died from radiation poisoning. From there, doctors and scientists got to work to discover the effects of radiation and to find a cure for radiation poisoning. It was Egon Lorentz who discovered that mice could recover from lethal doses of radiation if they received a bone marrow transplant, with bone marrow from a healthy mouse. This worked because bone marrow is the home of a cell called hematopoietic stem cells, or HSCs. HSCs are stem cells that can become any type of blood cell and keep regenerating over time. Doctors were later able to use this method on a human, and thus a medical breakthrough was born from utter destruction.
However, the bone marrow transplant was not the only medical breakthrough to take place as a result of the development of the atomic bomb. Scientists got to thinking about how radiation was able to kill people, so there must be a way to use controlled doses of radiation and kill targeted cells and cure certain diseases. This method was developed and researched to no end, until they were finally able to put it into effect. This strategy of using radiation was, and still, is used to cure some forms of cancer, and is called radioimmunotherapy, RIT. What is different from atomic bombs, however, is that in cancer treatments, the doctors use radioactive iodine, I-131, instead of using uranium, a combination of radioimmunotherapy or chemotherapy, in addition to HSC transplants, have been used to cure leukemia. Studies in radiation have also led to the discovery of stem cells other than HSCs, which continue to be studied today, and the development of different medical scans to better diagnose patients and to be able to treat them better and more efficiently. These scans include CTs, MRIs, SPECTs, and PET-CTs, and the scientists continue to develop more and more to make diagnosing patients easier. Another breakthrough that came about as a result of the creation of the atomic bomb is nuclear energy, which was originally thought by Ernest Rutherford to not be able to be controlled. Scientists were able to prove Rutherford wrong once by making the bomb, and again, even more so this time, by actually controlling the rate at which the energy is given off in the chain reaction using control rods to absorb and store some of the energy. This energy is used as heat energy to heat up water, which heats pipes filled with water to create a steam-powered turbine and generate electricity. This form of energy is cleaner than most energies in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, but it does create radioactive waste, which isn't that great to have lying around and is the reason why we haven't made the switch yet. The final, and perhaps the most important advancement we've got from the creation of the atomic bombs is the knowledge about the atom, and its properties that we can now pass down to future generations to do something amazing with. We went from thinking nuclear energy was impractical to discovering the property of fission, to being able to control a nuclear fission chain reaction to the point where we could put it into a bomb and use it, and harness the energy to generate electricity. Without the creation of the atomic bomb, the worlds of medicine, energy, and general science would be lacking. But will it take another war for scientists around the world to push themselves as hard as they can to find the next big scientific breakthrough? Or will they be able to find the drive within themselves? Only time will tell.